Good evening. This is Ronald Allen, managing change through effective communications. Being your best, what does that mean for you? What does that mean to you? Does it mean that you're showing other people outside of yourself a persona that is the public that you portray when you want to gain favor? You want to show as a peacock your feathers. Or, as we're going to talk tonight, about emotional intelligence, is arresting those reactionary behaviors, those triggers, as we use those terms in psychiatry, that set you off, that you have expressed and learnt over time that if you exhibit that behavior, you may, in some cases, be rebuffed as well, but you may get your desired outcome, as much as it's fleeting and momentary. So let's talk about being your best. And as any good contractor knows, it's what you don't see, the foundations, the infrastructure, that supports the outer extremities, the facade, the building. When I say facade, facade of a building, not facade as a pretense, but the facade of your building, your character, your personality, that will endure. I'm going to take this information from two sources. One is going to be from my Toastmasters work that I do, part of the McGuire's Achievers here in Burlington, New Jersey. And the other is from my observations of a group of youth that I'm working with. And literally every day I'm learning an incredible amount of data, and I call it that I then look at my academic knowledge base that I'm learning, and again, I'm constantly learning here, and begin to put together processes of engaging with people that make me think more of how I present myself as opposed to someone being wrong, someone not being polite the way I want them to be, or someone coming off in a disparaging way. This is very powerful stuff, because what you start to realize is not an indifference towards people, more of a caring of where they're coming from. And emotional intelligence is certainly focused on the engagement, the interaction with other people. Moreover, and this is where I think the real difference is, and those of us who really want to go deep into meaningful relationships, you arrest your own emotions. You arrest your prior behavior that, and if we're, again, honest with ourselves, we realize that the results we were getting not exactly stellar, not exactly what we like. So let's kind of kick off with the obvious, which is your last encounter with someone, whether it was your boss, colleagues at work, your significant other, even if it's a dog, parrot, or goldfish. Goldfish might be a little extreme there, but certainly dogs, cats, and birds. What was that engagement like? What was your purpose? What was your desired outcome? And in thinking of your desired outcome, were the steps along the way congruent or inconsistent, in being consistent, not inconsistent, being consistent with the desired outcome? Now, a lot of people will turn back and say, oh my goodness, that's too much work. Well, look at your life. Look at the outcomes that you wish. If you're playing rugby or football, you know my views on that one. If you're playing rugby, you have to play as a team member. Well, believe it or not, in your own being, your own self, you have to be a team member. What do I mean by that? Well, think of you as a little girl, a little boy, and you had certain behaviors. Are those behaviors still exhibited now as a young adult, older adult, senior adult? 60 plus years circumnavigating the sun? Are you still behaving Are you still expecting those kind of outcomes? Well, that's where we're talking, and that's what we're really talking about when we refer to emotional intelligence. And we're going to kind of go down a little list here. Again, this is taken from one of my older issues of Toastmasters. And for those of you who are not familiar with Toastmasters, it is a purveyor of helping people speak more efficiently, building confidence, and then setting them up for a series of leadership modules, they call them pathways now, that help you, again, individual self-help, personal professional development, understanding how you have to engage in a both formal and informal manner with pretty much anybody and everybody that you come across on a daily basis, not just at work, not just for your profession. Again, at home, significant others, children, at the counter. You may find yourself now with all these trees falling all over the place, people who can't get home and they get irritable. Back in February, we had that major storm, and we literally spent 12 hours coming back from Massachusetts, which should have been a 4-hour drive. So these skill sets, see, this is what we're really driving at, isn't it? These skill sets branch out, they span out across our entire lives. So let's kind of jump right in. Emotional intelligence, and I like to look at it in terms of you, the individual. And I gave you that little example. Remember you, yourself, as a little boy, a little girl, and are you still exhibiting those needs, those behaviors? And most importantly, are they giving you the kind of outcomes which are favorable to everybody? Back then, it was probably just favorable to you. I want, I want, I want. If I complain enough, or if I cajole someone into a situation, I can get what I want. On the other hand, as we become adults and we elevate our consciousness, are we not really looking for more mutually beneficial outcomes so that we can go back to the trough? We can go back to the pond. For those of you who didn't get it, go back to that relationship and ask for more, or at least engage in more favorable, desirable relationships. It's very much like a husband and wife. You need to constantly know how to play with each other, pinch the air, nibble on the cheek, play with the toes. You know, you come home at the end of the day, you've been married for 20, 30 plus years. Do you still do that? Or is that passé? Do you not realize that those stimuli, just as the child wants to get favors, are the very favors you need to do to enhance that relationship, to shore up that relationship? Those are the hidden kernels of the construction world, the internal structure of a house that makes it survive. Well, a relationship is the same. So think of it in those terms, and then say to yourself, is that what I'm doing? Is that why I'm not getting or sustaining, being able to support that kind of outcomes and relationship I want? And so, again, at work, it can be simple things like cleaning someone's desk and not telling them. It could be simply as making sure someone has staples in their staple gun. It happened today, in fact. I guess that's why it came out to memory. Emotional intelligence are the minutiae, the things we do that are so small, yet so subtle, yet so significant. And they're the ones that are remembered. If you bring coffee and donuts, everybody brings coffee and donuts. You're giving the person a heart attack, for goodness sake. But on the other hand, if you reformat a file and show the person, is this what you're looking for? Now, you might reformat the file as a sample, right? Don't go and reformat their file, but reformat the file and say, could this help the way that we structured this? Again, this is what happened just over the last couple of weeks. Emotional intelligence is understanding the environment you're in and then behaving in such a way that people gravitate towards you in a mutually respectful, and I'll use the word professional. Many of you know I don't really like that word professional. What the hell is a professional? Knowledge is always growing. You know, if you stop reading, then what the hell? Yeah, you're a professional from 10 minutes ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago. Youth were very quick to remind us of that. So we have to learn how to communicate with them. In fact, that's a really good exercise in emotional intelligence. That's a very good exercise. And with the youth that I'm working with right now, even heightened, because some of them are seriously challenged. We won't get into that right now. So let's kick off. Stress doesn't sideline those with emotional intelligence. Well, think about it. Stress. From the time you're born, you've got stress. You want to come out. You have to be birthed. That is stressful, even on the child. We may not have studies, we may now, but we may not have studies from early years of babies coming to birth, to term, yet that is a stressful stage of life, of existence. Well, from there on, we have stress. I want peanut butter. I don't have jelly. I don't like peanuts. I have an allergy to something. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to leave my parents. I don't want to learn this third and fourth language. I don't want to learn to ride a bike because I fell off the other day. The worm is slimy. I mean, it goes on and on and on. As we become adults, though, now we're looking at stress and having to relate back to past times when we had stress and say, well, wait a minute, what was the outcome? If you were late on a bill, if you didn't send the postcard, if you lost your wife's ring. You see, I can go there because I'm married 26 years. Now 26, yep, another year around the sun. I'm doing well. Never thought I would. It is that type of stress. You wake up in the morning, the tires are flat. Car won't start, and you find out AAA was just expired. That's stress. In psychology, there's another level called trauma, and trauma has multiple categories, multiple recognized categories of disdain, of pain, suffering. So emotional intelligence is reflecting back on those experiences and then saying, what was the outcome? And then setting yourself to task to move in a fashion and a manner that gives you a more, note the word, favorable outcome. We're not looking for home runs here. We're not looking to control. We're looking to better manage life's experiences, life's changes. So stress is number one. We effectively address each one. We put forth a concerted effort and we share that effort with those around us and willingly ask for their engagement, their input, to see what we've missed, what we didn't consider, what they thought about that we just didn't even know. That's what knowledge really is about. It's taking information, learning it, applying it, seeing what the outcomes are. You know, I talk about the litmus test, right, of life, and then being willing, emotional intelligence, to reassess and apply again. Because we dumb ourselves down thinking that, well, I tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ways, and none of them worked, so I'm giving up. And as we know, many people will say, well, the 14th, 15th, 115th way might have worked. That is a learned behavior. That is a cognitive asset that many, unfortunately, throw on the wayside. Emotional intelligence, steady behavior. Steady behavior. Once again, learned. Once again, developed. Once again, meaningful engagement about ourselves. About ourselves. Again, all of these are internal. So when we do find the external challenge, we're not flying off at the handle. We're not the teen 20-year-old who has to take a gun into a mall. See, that's the disconnect. We're not spending time with ourselves. Because again, we're only here for a brief moment. But life will continue. Steady behavior. Work with colleagues. Learn from your colleagues. Learn from your loved one. I've always said to my wife of 25 years, I said, you know, every day I wake up now, I realize that we have been married a long time. And yet, I look at you as my friend, as my mate. When we started, I even said to my wife, I don't want a wife. course, she looked at me a little strange. But over time, she realized that my perspective was 70-80% of people with that term, husband-wife, were getting divorced. So not that we didn't acknowledge the state, we just did not use the word. So we psyched ourselves out and acted in a way that we would continue to be engaged. And it's that steady, consistent behavior day in and day out, and looking for the excitement, both big and small engagements, activities. That is emotional intelligence. It's not only in business, it's not only in getting a career going or going to school or looking at strategy. Strategy is across everything that we do. Do you need an animal in your life where it's constantly needy? Is that really helping you? If it is, great. If that's giving you a skill set, that's great. It's a broader perspective of what life really is about. It's a broader perspective of the term emotional intelligence. Sure, we use it in business. It's easy in that respect. Not that it's easy to accomplish, it's just easier to recognize in that environment. Yet, the more significant the private lives we live, emotional intelligence takes a little bit more work. When you come home and your significant other doesn't like the shoes in the hallway, or the proverbial toothpaste cap left on the countertop, which ironically we never had that problem. I'm amazed because I know my wife likes to crunkle up the toothpaste tube, and I like to roll it. So we go back and forth with things like that. And then one day I just came up to her and said, "You are a crumpler and I am a roller. What are we going to do?" So you make light of it. Can you do that? Can you transfer the emotional intelligence from your private life into the business? I mentioned to you that I've been doing some work with some youth, and it is definitely challenging. The way that I entered it, and I'm kind of blowing my own horn a little bit here. Eartha Kitt, you shouldn't have to blow your own horn. Love that woman. She's the best. I entered it and I said, I am going to learn how to manage my own state. So one, anything they do and say is not in reference to me or my personality or character. Two, I will not put myself, remember we had this a while ago in a live chat, as a victim, which means with the girls and with the boys alike. Today's youth are more of a challenge because of the amount of information they receive at such an early age, the lack of parental guidance, and therefore their reaction into our societies. And we'll see, and if not already, 20s, 30s, and 40-year-olds behaving like teens because they haven't learned emotional intelligence. They haven't learned to arrest and redirect, refocus. And there's a term called concurrence, I believe it's concurrence, of having multiple behaviors at the same time and sequential, one after another. And it's very interesting because when you look at some of the behavior of your colleagues in the workforce, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds, you see a similar lack of personal management. So these are the real kernels that we struggle with on a daily basis. And the only way we've identified right now is to identify with self-efficacy. You've heard me use that term before. Emotional intelligence. Looking at what is the outcome we need. What are the pathways that everybody can get around? And how do I, the individual, develop those skills? How do I arrest that input, that impulse to react? And then, what is an additional challenge, literally 10 minutes later, they may be asking you for something that has nothing to do with the occurrence that just transpired. Can you do that with your loved one? Can you get mad one moment, be a disciplinary the next, and then a loving, caring person, the third stage of that cycle, if you will? Right? So you're at work, someone doesn't provide the report, you get mad, You get upset, you show it. That's what I mean. Not just that you get upset and they don't see it, but you show it. But the next moment is you have to work together on a different project, a different issue. With the youth, they're asking me for basic, simple things around the class, and I have to get that for them, or I have to present it to them. Emotional intelligence allows you to compartmentalize and remove and better manage yourself. A third one is people armed with strong EI, emotional intelligence, go to the past and identify mistakes that they made and adjust their behavior. So that is acknowledging that you're human, acknowledging that I think they call it humility, right? These are age-old behaviors that, as we've taken on more technology and as more information has been thrown at us, thrust at us, we're not looking back at the foundation of our needs and our existence. And we're running off into the sunset as if all this information that's been thrown at us is going to solve our problems. When, as we know, the real ability to solve a problem lies within. What if, here's an example, what if you chose, and this is part of some of the psychology I'm studying, what if you chose not to respond? So someone says something to you, you're in an accident, you hear some bad news, and instead of reacting, I don't purposely pause that long, you decided not to respond. What difference would it make? Now, there are some celebrities, there are some sports figures, and there are certainly statespeople from time way past, who when they hear bad news, they stop everything. And they may wait a minute, an hour, a day, a week. They decide whether they need to respond. Now, in the case of BP and the oil tank Valdez, the CEOs didn't respond to the public outcry. That's wrong. On the other hand, in Tylenol and some other instances that we've more recently heard, which I cannot recall right now, the CEO responded with a structured reply. Yes, we have a problem. Yes, a family member has died. Who is in a position to, can we put together? That comes from a conscious effort and an approach of looking back at past events and deciding what we should do, what we can do, what is best, what is optimum to do given the current situation. We don't always have to be pandemonium. We don't always have to be in drama mode, because life is going to come at us again very shortly with another challenge. And if we constantly react, well, may I just ask you again, reflect on your own lives. Because really, that's the litmus test. That's really the value of anyone that helps you, whether it's your pastor, your preacher, whether it's a colleague, a mentor, a coach. It doesn't really matter. The issue here is, are they bringing you resources that you can begin to apply and learn and use that helps you to develop? Because I guarantee you, even if you are the chief master of the world military forces, or you run one of the biggest corporations on the planet, it is through a team effort of intelligence, a team effort of experience, a team effort of desirable interests that will not only get you there, but moreover sustain. And a perfect example of that is, if any of you have worked in volunteering or non-profit, that is probably one of the most unique, because the people are doing it because they want to. So your level of emotional intelligence has to be that much more acute. Think about it. Try it out. You'll see the personalities, the strong energies that in those environments typically cultivate. Well, I'm going to kind of circle around here and finish up. I think I've given you enough information that you could use right now, right here, on your situations, on challenges, and also, as I've also said, it's not always a negative. It could be a positive, right? You could be in a good position, and you want to take it to the next level. I've always been very fascinated by the best corporations in the world and how they look to improve by looking on the horizon, going to different places, speaking to different people, looking at what seems to be opposing thoughts of knowledge, intelligence, or perspective, and seeing how you can apply it to your situation so that you're never stuck in the mud, you're not in quicksand. You can always learn something else. You can always apply another approach. You can take some time out, as we talk about in Toastmasters. Silence is golden. It allows the mind to rest. It allows the mind to engage in thought, come up with a new construct, a pause, and then reply. Use these techniques in everyday life, especially if your children are coming at you with, I want, I want, I want, I want. Amazing stuff that can happen. Emotional intelligence, and I'm going to end up with this one. Don't be afraid of setting boundaries and expressing your own, which is very much like saying, I want to respond in such a manner. But in this case, you're responding to people who may anticipate or expect you to behave a certain way, and you just don't want to. You don't need a rhyme or reason. It doesn't have to be cataclysmic. It can just be, no, I'm not willing to do that. That's a very powerful state. That's a very powerful set of confidence we can build instead of always overreacting. So, discussion. Being our best by arresting ourselves, our own emotions, and then coming out into the world with a little bit more relaxation, a little bit more fortitude of what we'd like to do, how we'd like our day to be. Life doesn't have to be full of drama. I haven't watched news, and I have the French station BBC, Al Jazeera, and a couple of other stations I usually watched every night into the late night. And I just stopped watching them. And I just feel much better for it. Yes, there's always issues out there. Yes, there's always someone who wants to blow up the world, or at least destroy, annihilate, and purge another race, another group of people. Excuse me there, the race thing. Emotional intelligence can be used across everything that we do on a daily basis, from the time that we wake up, because it's ourselves that we are putting in a state that we wish to then move forward with a certain amount of confidence, without the drama, the assuredness that certainly from our age, as we circumnavigate the sun more often, we should be learning small things, learning large things, learning from one another, what you like, what you don't like. This is really what managing change through effective communications is all about. This is Ronald Allen. Please check out my website, ronaldmallen, ALLEN.com. I'll be doing those audios, which I should have done last month. Managing change in 60 seconds. They'll be short 60-second audio files. And you can see me across most social media. This is Ronald Allen, Managing Change Through Effective Communications. You know where to find me.